What's up, guys? My name is DJ Swivel, and on this episode of Just the Tips, I actually asked you guys for some questions. This is just a Q&A. I want to answer your questions. What are the things that are on your mind? How can I help you guys? But before we get started, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, do everything you got to do, and let's dig into the Q&A. Okay, so Liam Pammer from Orlando, Florida asks, how do you multiply your money once you've made it? Obviously, I'm not an investment advisor, so I'm not going to tell, it's smart to, if you make money, hire somebody to manage your finances in that way. But I'm going to sort of like take it from the approach of the music industry. One of the smartest things I learned is to diversify where you're making your money. So I started in music as an intern and then an assistant and then an engineer where I started actually making some money, and then eventually a mix engineer and producer and songwriter. I view all of those roles as a single income stream. That is my creative income stream, how I make my money from, working with artists and doing creative endeavors. So that's one income stream. As time went on, and I became more confident in my abilities there and what I do, I had more resources and bandwidth to take on other challenges. And that's really important because in a service-based industry like music, as an engineer or producer or writer or whatever, you're limited by your time, right? And there's only 24 hours in a day. We've all got to sleep. So you only have so much time. So the only way to scale your business is to charge more for that time. So what I started to do is I started getting into other businesses in addition to continuing the creative stuff. So I became an advisor and co-founder in a few businesses like Skio Music. I started the plugin company, and that's a really great business that while I'm sleeping, I can still sell plugins and sample packs and things like that. So that's another income stream. I have a studio that I don't have to be there all the time. We have a team of people who can manage it, and I'll funnel clients in there and generate some money from that. So building multiple revenue streams is really, really key. But first, don't bite off more than you can chew. Get really good at, that first core thing. For me, that was engineering and production. And then after you've built that up and that's kind of working and you have clients coming in, then you can take some of your attention off that and build other income streams. So thanks for that question. It's a great one. Okay, Xavier from the Philippines asks, what are your favorite plugins? Well, of course, other than my own, I build plugins because they're things that I wish that I had in my tool set. So other than my own, I really love the FabFilter stuff. I love what Steven Slate is doing. He's got a ton of really great plugins. Virtual Mix Rack is one of my favorites. FGX, another one of my favorites. And I love Retrocolor as well. So those are a couple of my favorite non-DJ Swivel plugins. So thanks for the question. Okay, at Rialo Music, he didn't say where he's from. His question is, do you have any tips on mixing tracks where most of the instruments share the same frequency range? That's actually a great question, Rialo. Sometimes that can be tough, but there's so many tools in a mixer's tool belt to be able to solve these problems. And this would actually be a great demonstration, just the tips, for another video, but I'll try best to answer now. You want to use things like panning and carving out of frequencies and things like reverb to create different spaces for all of those elements. So for example, vocals and guitar often live in the same frequency space. Like an electric guitar and vocals often live in the same frequency space. And you have songs that are led by an electric guitar and still have vocals, and they work fine. And the reason is because you might have your lead vocal panned right in the center, like dead center. You might have those guitars panned off to the side. You might have some stereo imaging on them so that they sort of wrap around the lead vocal, and then wherever depending on whether it's a male or female vocal, whatever the central sort of frequency range of that vocal is, you might want to duck some of that in the guitars enhance some of that in the vocals so that you create an additional separation. And then, of course, your guitar's, your vocal's going to have a reverb that's going to put it in a unique space. You might have a different reverb on the guitars or keep them completely dry so they're more in your face. There's a lot of these little things, and the key is just do different things on each of the elements to give them their own space. And I will definitely try to do a video that demonstrates some practical ways on how you can do that. But great question. Thank you for that. Okay, Nick from Melbourne asks, what is your process for mic positioning to record vocals? That's a great question. Really, it just depends on what you're trying to achieve. So for a typical lead vocal, I might have the vocalist maybe 6 inches away from the mic. But again, even that just depends on who you're working with and what the goal of the song is. So I'll give you an example. When I was working with Beyonce and I was her engineer, she has a very, very powerful voice. It's very dynamic. She can get very low and quiet when she needs to. And she can also get very loud and high when she needs to. And in some cases, in the same phrase, she will start low and then work her way up. And by the end of the phrase, she's sort of belting. And that requires a lot of mic control. So my job as an engineer or a vocal producer is to tell the artist when to, sort of back up from the mic, self-compress kind of. And Beyonce's a pro at this. I mean, she's been doing this forever. So when she belts, she will actually back up off the mic. And that makes my job a little easier. And then when she gets low and quiet, she'll get closer to the mic. So it sort of like balances it all out. So yeah, typically about 6 inches for a lead vocal. But again, it depends on who it is. In the case of Billie Eilish, stylistically, Billie Eilish sings very quiet and soft, but you get this proximity effect because now I've never worked with Billie, but it sounds like she's very close mic, like literally almost touching her lips. And so that's how you would get that sort of low proximity effect, that whisper effect that she's known for. Now, again, that's for a lead vocal. For background vocals, you might want to do something else. If you want your backgrounds to feel like they're really in the back, oftentimes I'll have a mic sort of 6 or 7 feet away. And I'll, whether it's myself or a vocalist who I'm working with, have them sing when the mic is 6 or 7 feet away, and it creates more space. So ultimately, it depends on who you're recording, what you're recording, what you're trying to achieve, and that sort of dictates how you need to position your mic. But there's a few good examples, and thank you for the question. It was a great one. Okay, Alex Augsburg from Germany asks, what are some tips for starting out as a freelancer, as a freelance mixing engineer? So freelancing, of course, is when you are working for yourself. You don't have a home studio. You're not working with a particular artist. You are basically out hunting for clients and building your own business. The biggest tip that I can give is don't turn anything down. When you're starting out, mix for anybody. It doesn't matter if it's $50, if it's $100, if it's $20, it doesn't matter. Just get your practice in, because when you're starting out, you're probably just learning the craft. You might be fairly good, but this is a craft where you're constantly learning. I've been mixing for 15 years and I'm still learning. I'm still improving. I'm still trying to get better. And it's just a journey. There's no finish line here. So when you're getting started, don't let money be the priority. Let experience be the priority. So mix as much as you can. Take every gig you can get. And then ultimately, if you do a good job, those gigs are going to lead to other gigs and lead to other gigs. And you never know when an artist breaks and you're the guy who was mixing for $100. Now they got a record deal and they want you to mix all their stuff because they love what you do. And now you're getting real budgets from a label and you can up your price and do things like that. So just don't say no to anything. Take every gig, practice, 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 and you will do just fine. All right. Swice from LA asks, how has your personal or industry work changed because of the pandemic? That's a great question. It's funny. When the pandemic started, Not much change at all, because as a producer, I work from my home here in Los Angeles, and even before the pandemic, I'm pretty much locked in this studio all day. So not a whole lot changed, but there was a few things that changed. One, being able to go out, go to events, go take meetings, that all changed from in-person meetings to sort of Zooms and phone calls. So that's a bit of an adjustment. And, it's not really a big deal, but there's definitely a lot more opportunity to go out and network and meet people when you can sort of freely move. So that was one change. Let me see. I guess the other major change is that I haven't been doing many in-person sessions. I've had a couple people over who I trust, who I know, they've done their COVID tests and things like that. But I've largely stopped doing in-person sessions. So I don't have a lot of people coming over to the house anymore. So that has definitely changed and has been a bit of a challenge to, be as effective to when you're working sort of over Zoom or Skype. It's just not quite the same. It's so much easier to create a song with somebody when they're in the room. So that's been a bit of an adjustment, but something we deal with. But yeah, largely it hasn't really changed. I'm sort of in my room. I'm constantly working, and I'm already juggling my time between mixing and producing and writing and building plugins and some of my other businesses. So I think what I've focused on this year is a little bit more on the business side than the creative side. And that's like sort of a pendulum. It'll swing back and forth. But certainly during the pandemic, I've focused really, really hard on the plugins, and trying to get multiple products out in 1 year has been a challenge, but a welcome one, and it's been a great year so far. So thanks for the question.